Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show. And today I got a pretty interesting topic for you guys. And the topic is Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers absolutely destroy these Mavs and dares anyone to test them in the next coming round. So that's what I want to get into. But before I get into that, I want you guys to make sure, please, you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And also, real quick, we have a poll that we put up on our community. We're going to link that somewhere in the description below. We're thinking of launching a premium program, but what we're trying to do is get as much feedback from you guys and know what you think. We also want your comments or whatever it is, whatever thoughts you have. So please, we're going to link that in the description below. Just check it out and vote. Whatever you vote, just whatever your vote is, just please leave your vote. We're trying to get to at least 500 to 1,000 votes just so we understand if it's something that the audience would be interested in. So please make sure you vote. We're going to link that in the description below. So let's just get straight into the topic. Now, you guys saw the game last night or yesterday evening or whatever it is between the Clippers and the Mavs, the final game, the closeout game, at least for the Clippers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you guys sort of my analysis of the game, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts. So let's just get into the game. So the Clippers started out that game pretty hot. They jumped out to a 10-4 lead, but as you know, all throughout the playoffs, and as I've said in the past, you never get too excited with these things because teams can jump out the leads, and before you know, leads are gone. Because in the NBA, it seems to be a game of runs, especially with the three-point shot being so prevalent. So they jumped out to an early lead, and they looked very aggressive in the beginning minutes of the game, which I liked, simply because I think the Clippers understood that they needed to close out this series. You don't want to go against the Dallas Mavericks in a game, in a game 7, because in a game 7, anything can happen. As you saw a number of years ago, I believe it was in 2016, I believe it was against the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors in game 7, anything can happen. And Kyrie hit the biggest shot of his career, one of the biggest shots in playoff history to give that team the lead. So game 7 should be avoided if you can. And the Clippers looked like they wanted to control the pace early in the game, whereas it looked like the Mavs wanted to, force the issue. And the reason for that is quite simple. If the Clippers can control the pace, given the fact that they're a great half-court team, and the Mavs wanted to push the pace so they can get easy shots in transition, and they wouldn't have to play against a set defense as much. It would be in the favors of the Mavs to push the pace, and whenever you see that happen, that's when three-point shots come into play, and the defense and the game just sort of gets messed up, and they dirty up the game, and all of a sudden you end up having these really high-scoring games, which really favors the Mavs because of their offensive rating as a team. Now, another thing I noticed in the beginning of the game, which was the Mavs were doubling Kawhi and sending double teams at him and even throwing a full court press at him, trying to get the ball out of his hands. And I think what they were trying to accomplish is they said, you know what, let somebody else beat us, because they know that this guy is going to beat them. He's shown that he can beat them. If you look at Kawhi Leonard's playoff numbers thus far in the season, in the playoffs, in 6 games, he's playing about 39 minutes a game. He's shooting 54% from the field. He's shooting 29% from the 3, which I think is going to improve as the playoffs go on. He's shooting 85.5% from the free throw line. He's scoring 33 points a game, getting you 10.2 rebounds and 5.2 assists with 2.3 steals. So they know that Kawhi Leonard is dangerous, and they just want to make sure that whoever beats them is not him. And you can tell that was part of their strategy. Now, Paul George jumped out to an early, got a quick 5 points, which is good in the first quarter. And Marcus Morris was playing pretty well, who I'm going to get to in a little bit. And he, in the first quarter, he got them a steal, he hit a 3. So he was playing really well, and he was really going at Luka Doncic and making him play defense as well, which is something that they have to do to really wear him out. The person guarding him also has to be able to score to make him work on both ends of the court, knowing that the Mavs run pretty much everything through him, and their offense goes as Luka goes. So I noticed that. But as usual, the Clippers began to lose their concentration towards the midway and the end of that first quarter, which is something I don't like. They'll get out, get a lead, and then start messing up the game all on their own. Now, I noticed that in the second quarter, JaMychal Green, who has been consistent all throughout the playoffs, came in and gave them a lot of energy and played very well. Got them a few dunks and all of that. And once the pace began to speed up in the second quarter, I would have liked to see Paul George remain a little bit more aggressive. Now, granted, I think he finished the game with 15 points, and he didn't shoot that well from the field. But when he's aggressive, when he's going to the basket, when he's getting to the free throw line, he's getting easy shots, I think it opens up his game for him. So hopefully as the playoffs continue on, maybe it's just that matchup, maybe it's just that series, maybe it's just the playoff jitters, whatever it is, I look for him to be more aggressive. Later on in the game, though, in the second quarter, Clippers began to play with a little bit more intensity and focus, especially towards the end of the second quarter, which I like. And they were able to close out that quarter with some big plays from Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Now, going into that third quarter, the Clippers came out with a lot of energy. And typically, that's when they really make their stamp on games, in that third quarter. And especially that's where Kawhi Leonard tends to do a lot of his damage in the third quarter. So Kawhi Leonard looked aggressive. He came out, and you could see that he sensed the moment. And this is the difference between, stars and superstars and championship MVP players. Kawhi Leonard could sense the moment. He knew that he had to step on the throat of that team. And, PG started to play a little bit, play Luka in the second half. And he showed his versatility because with Marcus Morris out, who got fouled out and, he fouled out of the game, he showed that he had to be the next guy to pick up Luka Doncic, while Kawhi Leonard was really focusing on the scoring. And it seemed to work out pretty well for them. Now, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both had about 16 points by the third quarter, so they were showing that they were very strong 1-2 punch. But as I said before, Kawhi was doing most of his damage in that third quarter. Now, the Mavericks, however, they went cold from the three, and that's the problem with the three-point shot. If you take so many three-pointers and you don't have a versatile offense, it could betray you. And at one point, they were 4 of 23 from the three-point line, which didn't bode well for them. But the Clippers looked to remain focused in that third, which I like. But then I began to get worried because the Clippers have this thing of building up a good lead and then throwing it away. And in the end of that third quarter, that's exactly what they started to do. Luka Doncic started to get hot, and he ended up having 15 points in that third quarter. And going into the fourth quarter, the Mavericks had pulled within 6 points. It was 88-82, which is so many points to give up. In three quarters. I would have liked for them to give up around 70, but 80 points is a lot. So, and I noticed that in the beginning of the fourth quarter, Doc Rivers immediately brought Kawhi Leonard back into the game. And I think what that showed me is that Doc Rivers was serious about winning that game, but he also understood that his best chance for winning the game is not having Paul George and all these other guys. You need to have your best player, the most, to use the words of Paul George, the most reliable player in the NBA in the game. And you could see when Kawhi Leonard came back into that game, given that it was a 6-point game, the Clippers automatically began to regain their composure. By the fourth quarter, Kawhi already had 27, 13, and 6 by the third quarter. But then he just started to kill them. And he hit 4 straight jump shots in their faces. And to be quite honest with you, man, he reminded me of Jordan or Kobe, especially Kobe. I mean, Kobe played exactly like that. Kobe would just stare you down, jab step, pull up, and hit jump shots right in your face. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do with him because you have to respect his drive because he can drive past you. And that's the thing that Kawhi, he would drive past him. So now, the fact that they know that they have to respect the drive, you don't know what he's going to do. So the defenders are going to back up off of him because they don't know, is he going to drive or is he going to pull up? And he would just simply pull up. And because he's a reliable mid-range shooter, he just kept on killing them. And there was nothing they can do with him. And he's the reason that they closed out that game. He literally closed out the Mavs and just let them know any run that you guys were thinking or anticipating of going on, it's not going to happen. And he single-handedly closed out that team. Now, it's important to say that Zubac was just amazing. I mean, the guy got you 15 points and 11 rebounds, and he was just consistent, rolling to the basket, scoring, catching the ball. But Reggie Jackson also came up pretty big in that fourth quarter. He got you 12 big points in that fourth quarter. And, Kawhi Leonard even ended up finishing the game with 5 steals. So if I look at the box score from the game last night, if I look at the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard finished with 33.7 rebounds. 7 assists, 14 rebounds, and 5 steals. Ivica Zubac finished with 15 and 11. Paul George finished with 15, 7, and 9. So he played a great all-around game, although his offense wasn't there. But he had other players that picked it up, like Landry Shamet, who came off the bench with 9 points. Reggie Jackson came off the bench with 14 points. John Michael Green chipped in 7 points and 5 rebounds. So they had a great balanced attack. On the other hand, for the Dallas Mavericks, it was just pretty much the Luka Doncic show, man. He had 38, 9, and 9. Tim Hardaway Jr. chipped in 10, and Finney Smith chipped in 16 points for that team. So the Mavs put up a good fight, but in the end, they just couldn't really beat they were just outmatched. At the end, the Clippers were able to close them out, to their credit, in 6 games with a final score of 111-97. So it was good that they were able to hold them under 100. I like when great defensive teams can hold teams under 100. I think that's a very good thing. Now, given the fact that they were able to beat them, and early on I had predicted that they would beat the Mavs in 5, in which case I was wrong, but they were still able to beat them. And these are some of my final thoughts. My first question is, the Clippers are going to be a scary proposition in the second round, and I'm asking myself, who really wants to play them? Now, if you looked at the game between I believe it was the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets, they were able to force a Game 7 in that series. But now you're going up against a Clippers team that has faced some adversity, and they're in a rhythm. They're looking pretty tough right now. Not to say that they're going to go and steamroll their next matchup in the next round, but I still, I feel like now that they have their legs under them, they've gotten the playoff jitters out of them, they've been tested. I think they're going to be a really tough out next series, and I think now they're going to be seeking to destroy, because remember, they're not champions. Kawhi Leonard is the reigning Finals MVP, but the Clippers are not champions, and I think that they want to have that championship jewelry. And now that they've gotten their mojo, and they were pretty much able to play that entire series without Patrick Beverley, who is really the teeth of their defense, and Doc Rivers said he expects him to be ready for the beginning of the second round. I think the Clippers are going to be really tough, man. And the one thing I have to say about this team, which is something that I've noticed about them, is that they've developed the demeanor of Kawhi Leonard. If you look at the Clippers now, they don't panic. They can give up leads, they can lose games, but you never see them get flustered out there. And I think this is the most powerful effect that Kawhi Leonard has on teams that he plays on. It is his ability to affect his teammates emotionally, and they all of a sudden begin to adopt his demeanor, where they don't panic and they stay very calm. It's something about Kawhi. You don't see him get flustered by the moment. He just plays through the moment. And I think this is going to be the number one thing for them moving forward. I think the fact that he's able to inject his DNA and his demeanor on his teammates, I think it's something that's going to work well for them, because they're going to be tested in later points in the playoffs, and the playoffs are very long, very, very long. And they're going to have tougher opponents moving forward, if it's going to be the Denver Nuggets or the Utah Jazz. But they're going to be a tough team to beat because they don't get flustered. That's my number one reason why I think, at that point, all the teams are good. But now it's about who can execute, down the stretch of games, and who can remain focused for 48 minutes and actually win games. And I think that's a major advantage that the Clippers have that very few teams in the NBA have, and led by Kawhi Leonard. And once again, he shows you why he's the best basketball player in the world. So those are my thoughts and opinions on the game. So what I want to know from you guys is, what did you think about the game? What are your final thoughts and analysis? What did you think about the Kawhi Leonard's play in the end of the game? And let me know your thoughts moving forward about, how do you think they're going to bode in the second round of the playoffs. So once again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, please don't forget to go leave your vote on the Dreamers Pro community, on the post there that we have there for you guys. We're going to leave the survey up for the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. So we're not going to post anything else there, just because we want to get your feedback on that. So please make sure you leave your vote and leave a comment and let us know whatever you guys think on there, so we can get your all of your thoughts and opinions on that. Once again, thank you for your attention, and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.